Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.
My name is Bilal.
I'm Nazima.
We're the Healthy Muslims. Welcome to the Healthy Muslim Show. Inshallah, today we're going to be covering the midpoint of Ramadan.
So, as much as we've hoped that you did a lot of the tips that we talked about, nutrition and fitness, life does happen. And if you're at this point where you don't feel the greatest, it's still not too late.
Yeah. And one thing is exactly what Nazima said. It's not too late, but it's never too late. But you still want to get ahead of it before, Ramadan is done. And then you're having to sit back and be like, oh, I should have or could have, and so forth. So the one thing is figuring out now what you can do to really help end Ramadan on the high note.
So, if you're starting to not feel the greatest, it's not because of the fasting. It's likely because of what you're eating, the feasting, what you're eating in that non-fasting window. And so things you might be feeling are those headaches, low energy, the digestive issues that no one talks about. But it's all happening, right? Where you don't feel the greatest. The one thing with Ramadan is we know the importance of the last 10 days. So, which is why it's not too late. We can make changes now so that inshallah, the remainder of your Ramadan is a little bit more productive and we can really capitalize on those last 10 days.
Yeah. And so starting now, the first thing you want to be able to do is build a schedule, right? Have a routine in place. So when it comes to your workouts, when it comes to your walks. So the one thing, for example, everyone should be doing is every single day going for a walk. If it's cold out, get a treadmill for the house or a walking pad. Walking pads are really cheap. Treadmills are a lot bigger and more obnoxious, right? But doing something every single day, even if it's a simple bike ride, but going for a walk every single day is really, really important. 10, 15, 20 minutes every single day, adding different elements to it. Over time, you will notice a huge difference, especially in the first few days you do it. You'll notice really quickly how much more energy you have, how much more focus, and just in general, how much better you feel.
Yeah, and so this can happen any time of the day. If you are deciding in the last 10 days to be more nocturnal, where you're going to spend more time awake, you can even do post-iftar, right? This is a good time where you can actually add in an extra workout or add in an extra walk so that you have enough energy for the remainder of your night.
Yeah. And then from there, same thing comes to nutrition, right? Start planning out your meals. Start planning out your iftar better. If you have our book, there's a bunch of different recipes in there that you can choose from. Same thing with workouts. There's a whole bunch of workouts in there that you can do. But have your suhoors planned out, have your iftar planned out. Having things prepped ahead of time so that way you don't turn to, unhealthier stuff. The biggest reason why most people turn to, say, unhealthier options is because that's what they know. It's easy. It takes less time, right? But having a recipe and everything in front of you, it makes it a lot easier for you to be able to then make better choices.
Yeah, if you are spending, the remainder of Ramadan more time in the masjid or with others, it doesn't mean that you should completely lose control of what you're eating, right? Even though there's a big spread of food, what you put on your plate is up to you, and then what you put into your body as well. So at the least...
And if someone tries to put stuff on your plate, take your plate away.
No, thank you. But at the least, having portion control, right? Suhoor, once again, is the one time where you have a little bit more control. However, if you are in the masjid at that time, a great option is to pack a suhoor, right? Like have it. I remember for you, I would pack your suhoor. You'd go have it in the car because it makes a huge impact on how you're going to feel during your fast.
So when I was going for suhoor, like the last 10 days, she would pack my lunch. I didn't want
suhoor.
Pack my suhoor. And instead of taking it into the masjid, I'd go into the car, I would eat my suhoor, I'd come back in and usually they'll have like chai or they'll have like drinks and water and stuff like that. I'll have that with everybody else, right? And they might have some fruits and stuff and I'll have that. But as far as like, when it comes to meals, I had to make sure that I was on point. There's certain goals that I want to reach, and unfortunately, massages they do a good job of feeding people. They don't do necessarily a good job of feeding people the right food, right?
Because I think the community would not be very happy.
That's true. We show up with the overnight oats. I don't know how people would respond, but that's one thing. It's like having, but again, the right mentality, right? What is the purpose of Ramadan, right? It's spirituality, right? It's nearness, is trying to gain nearness to Allah, and so in order for that to happen, you need more energy, you need more focus, you need more strength. All of that happens through your nutrition and your workouts. So it's really, really important to make sure that those things are in place in order for you to be able to succeed.
One very common thing I mentioned was the digestive issues. And with that, I find it really has a huge impact, and it's kind of happening silently, right? So this could be stomach aches, indigestion, you're having constipation, diarrhea. These are not fun things to talk about, but it has a huge impact on your energy levels. And so what is super important is your hydration, right? Making sure you're drinking enough water. So if you haven't been drinking enough water for the first bit of Ramadan, it's still not too late. Suhoor time is a key time, but also like iftar up until bedtime. Catch up on that water. It should be at least 2 liters per day. Should we talk about electrolytes, which is like this super, I don't know, this huge trend?
So electrolytes have their place.
Yes.
Right? They are important. All right. So no one's taking that away, right? But this concept that exists, I don't know, it's like people see stuff on social media and then they just like start falling for like, oh my God, this is why. It's like the same thing with sugar. Everyone will vilify sugar instead of looking back at their own decisions that they're making, right? And it's because you're overeating. It's not because you're addicted to sugar. If you were addicted to sugar, not to go off on a tangent, but if you were addicted to sugar, you would walk into the kitchen, pull the sugar down that you have, and grab a spoon and start eating it. You don't do that. No one does that, right? What you're addicted to or what you're looking for is highly palatable food, stuff that's really high in calories, that's going to give you that, spike of energy. And that's what you're actually looking for instead. So one thing is important. Same thing with electrolytes and all this stuff that comes along the way. People start falling for these extremes. Again, electrolytes have their place. There's nothing necessarily wrong with them. But if you already have a lot of food really, really high in sodium, which the vast majority of people from the Muslim community already do, and then you have almost no physical activity throughout the day, and then you're also consuming high amounts of electrolytes, which have, again, sodium is the most important part in electrolytes. Then again, that can be more detrimental than good. So it's important to remember, if you're being physically active, if you're sweating a lot throughout the day, yes, electrolytes can play a part. But if you're not doing all those other things, then water itself is more than sufficient.
Yeah, and especially now our fasts are getting shorter. They're no longer those long summer fasts that we were experiencing a few years ago. And so with that, sometimes actually electrolytes could be harmful for your health, and which is why we're very cautious of just giving a blanket statement recommendation where every time you drink water, you need to have electrolytes. That's actually not true, right? In general, for the general population is you need to just be drinking enough water. You're most likely getting enough electrolytes from your food.
And people will be like, oh, if you drink so much water, you have to use the washroom. Well, yeah, that's what happens.
Okay. I know that's actually a normal part of your bodily function.
I realize the reason why people complain about that is because they don't usually drink enough water throughout the day anyway, so they're not using the washroom as much as they should.
Right.
So the moment they start drinking more water, they're like, oh, wait, I have to go to the washroom. Where do you think it's going to go?
Yes. So that's like a normal part. I remember I was speaking to one of our members and I was like, the biggest complaint is I don't want to have to use the washroom so much. And I was like, listen, the inconvenience of using the washroom, that is like way minor versus the inconvenience of the negative effects of being dehydrated. Like, it's really not worth it. So yes, you will have to use the washroom and it's honestly okay. And that doesn't mean that what was the point of drinking water and you're not going to be hydrated. That's actually a good sign that your body's working well.
Yeah, and you want to go into more detail, even color of it, everything, all that plays a factor. So when it comes to overall health and understanding that, using the washroom is something that's very normal. So when you see a lot of the stuff when it comes to see stuff on social media, it's not hard to vet to see if this is what they're saying. Just because they say it in a very specific way, they add a lot of stuff along with it. Like, you have a registered dietitian who has her master's in public health, right? Like, I'm a trainer in fitness management. Like, we're telling you from dealing with client like in the thousands and people with members all over the world. Electrolytes are great. All right, time and place is the most important thing. The one thing that always irks people is they will ask a million questions. I promise you, every question you ask with regards to fitness and nutrition, the number one answer you should always get from any so-called expert is it depends. Mm-hmm. If they just jump into giving you the answer definitively every single time, it usually because they're not being completely honest with you or they don't know. It depends is the number one thing to remember. So it's circumstantial with all these things that we're talking about, right? But again, for someone like myself, I don't turn to electrolytes heavily, even in Ramadan, even though I'm working out, I go for walks and so forth, because I'm getting enough water, right? And I can tell my hydration is good. I'm like, I don't need to turn to it. Plus, we're eating dates every day. Dates has potassium. right? So if you're having multiple dates, again, electrolytes, right? So you got to remember, electrolytes don't just come from packets that you get, little sachets that you get that you pour into your water, right? You can also get them from fruit. So in Ramadan, we probably eat more fruits in Ramadan than we do outside Ramadan, because of during iftar time we always have like platters of fruits available. So when it comes to getting electrolytes, I'm getting quite a bit from fruits, and so that's one thing to remember, is that it depends, but for the most part, people are fine with their electrolytes, especially during Ramadan. Outside Ramadan is different, because you might be doing stuff. Summertime is different. Summertime, everything changes, but it's important to remember that depends. But for the most part, people are good when it comes to electrolytes.
Yeah, and so if you're not feeling the greatest right now, it's not because you're not, you didn't buy electrolytes. It's not because of the fasting. It's once again how you're eating. You're probably not drinking enough water, and you're not active enough.
The biggest thing is you have to ask yourself, what are the choices that you're making in order? So, we're at the midpoint of Ramadan. So ask yourself, how do you want the rest of Ramadan to go? If you want to continue on where you are right now, or if you really truly want to be able to make the changes that you want in order for you to really maximize this time.
Yeah, and those last 10 days are so valuable. And so, making these small changes can have a huge impact on your energy. Now, looking past Ramadan is Eid, and we always get this question where it's like, I don't know why people ask us, healthy tips for Eid. Healthy tips for Eid. We will talk about having a healthy Ramadan all day, but when it comes to Eid, that is one day to indulge and enjoy yourself, right?
Like it's a celebratory day, right? Yeah. It's you're not even supposed to fast on that day, right? So go and celebrate, have fun. But that's the whole point, right? When you talk about creating a lifestyle, you don't need to have restrictions on everything, right? Like, you should be able to have these moments of celebration where you can just enjoy and just eat as you want without restrictions. And then throughout the year and throughout the month, then you have those moments that come up where, then you're being strict. But then when you have these moments where you have the two Eids that come up, or say it's a wedding or certain things that come up, you should be able to then indulge and have fun and enjoy yourself. But then what are you doing throughout the week? Then after Eid and beforehand, then you should be on point. And then you won't feel guilty. That's the great thing. Yeah. Like, you won't feel that, that you have 5 minutes or 2 minutes of enjoyment, and the moment you finished eating, you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have had that. Like, that's the worst feeling. You don't want to have to go through life like that. Instead, you want to be able to enjoy it, and afterwards still appreciate that you had it. And the only way that happens is if you're mindful before and after, and then during Eid, you can have fun like we do.
Yeah. I think people don't actually believe like how much we do indulge on Eid. So our family tradition is Eid cheesecake, and not just any time of the day. It's literally after breakfast. So we are having cheesecake at like 9, 10 a.m. on Eid.
So we always go for the first salah. Yeah. And then after that is just eat till nighttime. Yeah.
But yeah, we're literally starting our day with this big breakfast, and we have Eid cheesecake.
It's funny because we go to people's houses, and they're just like, oh, I'm like, no, I'm eating.
No, we're enjoying
like,
ourselves.
Oh, you're pointing, I'm like, no, bring me everything, whatever you have. Don't worry, I'm good. I'm gonna eat.
Exactly. And so, Ramadan is, yes, it's a celebratory time where we come together as a community, but it's also a lot about fighting your nafs and doing the most that we can. So over the remainder of Ramadan, make the most out of it, right? What is our intention? What did we want to, going into Ramadan, what were our goals? Were we able to accomplish those spiritual goals? And adding in that physical component will help you really come together with that. And so if you need extra guidance, we did put together a free guide. You can download it. Inshallah, you can make the most out of the rest of your Ramadan.
Yeah. And, we're in the blessed month of Ramadan. So please keep us in your du'as. Inshallah, you all have a productive, healthy rest of Ramadan. Assalamu alaikum.